And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. Lately, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has featured prominently in the news for the wrong reasons. The federal government's effort to sanitize the NDDC and the people's reaction to the recent shake-up in the commission will take the lead in today's package. How host communities of oil mining lease OML 25 in Kula Kingdom of River State reacted to a recent stakeholders meeting called by the state government is next on our lineup. And staying with OML 25, we bring you the position of ex-Niger Delta agitator and leader of the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, Alhaji Muhajid Dokubo Asari, on the lingering face-off between the host communities and the River State government. Wrapping it up on today's package is a call on the federal government to take urgent steps in fixing the east-west road, which is getting increasingly impassable for motorists and commuters within the Niger Delta. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, we'll be right back after this time out. Don't go away.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Interim management appointed recently to oversee the forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has promised to hand over a brand new commission devoid of sharp practices to the incoming governing board. The Joy Nunieh-led management made the pledge and assumption of duty last week in Port Harcourt.
The three-man management team appointed to oversee the affairs of the NDDC has Joy Nunieh from Rivers State as acting managing director. In the new regime at the NDDC, Dr. Cairo Ojubo from Delta State serves in the capacity of executive director projects, while Basi Etang, an indigene of Akwa Ibom State, functions as executive director finance and administration. During a brief interaction with staff members of the NDDC, Joy Nunieh, who succeeds Lelegima Enya as acting managing director, said our interim management team was on a rescue mission at the NDDC.
We're here because Mr. President, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, has sent us here to revamp the NDDC, the Niger Delta region, and to oversee too many things have happened, and we are here because Mr. President has said that he believes we will do the right thing. This management team, we want to succeed. We will take advice on everything that will move the NDDC and the region forward. If you have any suggestions, please give them to us. But please do not come with any stories, gossip about another staff. We are not interested in knowing people's personal issues.
The forensic audit of the NDDC from its inception in 2001 to date follows reported cases of fraud and maladministration by successive governing boards of the Commission. The new crop of leaders at the NDDC, however, insists that it won't be business as usual in the present dispensation.
The forensic audit is very paramount and very important. The world wants to see and know all the monies that accrued to the NDDC from inception to date, how the money has been spent. Our assignment is to come here and aid the forensic auditors, make sure that they get all the information they need to get, because we are not interested parties and in the affairs here.
We do our best. We know the task is enormous, but with God, we're going to succeed. For those that have pending payment, it's very simple. If you know we did genuine jobs, and we were given certificate of completion, it must be paid. There's no hard feelings about it. But if you know you never did it, we would advise you to go back to site.
The new acting managing director of the NDDC, a lawyer who served as a founding coordinator of the Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPREP, lamented the backward state of the Niger Delta, despite huge funds allocated to the NDDC. She assures the beleaguered oil-producing communities of a brighter future under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
President Muhammadu Buhari is sensitive about our plight. He's interested in what has happened to us. He's sad about what has happened in the past. And that's why he set up the forensic audit to investigate and try to recover monies and ensure that jobs. And I'm happy that they said most contractors have gone back to site. So I'm sure there will be development. I want to reassure the people of the Niger Delta that there's hope. And Mr. President is ready to take the people of the Niger Delta to the next level.
President Buhari has since submitted to the National Assembly names of appointees that would constitute the incoming board of the NDDC, in which the current acting managing director, Joy Nunieh, is to function as representative of Rivers State.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Before proceeding to the corporate headquarters of the NDDC in Port Harcourt to resume duty, members of the newly appointed interim management of the commission were inaugurated in Abuja by the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio. At a brief ceremony marking their inauguration in Abuja, Senator Akpabio observed that members of the interim management board were appointed by President Muhammadu Buhari to oversee the forensic auditing of the Commission's financial transactions and processes since inception in 2001.
Mr. President has further directed that since we have started the processes that will lead to the formal commencement of the forensic auditing of the Niger Delta Development Commission, to underscore the seriousness of government, that there is need to put in place an interim management committee to take over the affairs of the commission, of the NDDC, and of course cooperate and collaborate with the incoming auditors to ensure that the exercise goes issue.
Senator Akpabio charged members of the management team to justify the confidence and trust reposed in them by retooling the Commission's processes before the confirmation of a substantive board to oversee its affairs. Responding on behalf of the new interim management team, the new acting managing director of the NDDC, Joy Nunieh, promised to leave above board in managing the affairs of the Commission.
I would like to assure you that by God's grace, we will not disappoint you. This we will come out and the Niger Delta will be for good. And I'm sure the people of the Niger Delta will see this team and have confidence. If we can't do it, then it will be very sad for the people of the Niger Delta, because I know they have confidence in us.
The federal government is currently shopping for 10 auditing firms to ascertain the true position of the finances of the NDDC from 2001 to date. For civil society groups operating in the Niger Delta, the federal government's probe into the activities of the NDDC is a step in the right direction. They look forward to a thorough investigation into the finances of the Commission, as well as appropriate sanctions for those found wanting, as such a measure will act as a deterrent to other unscrupulous officials operating in the system.
Long before the federal government's move to wield the big stick on NDDC, several groups in the Niger Delta had consistently drawn public attention to pervasive acts of administrative misconduct in the system. Perhaps most worrisome for critics of the NDDC has been the poor handling of projects meant to transform the region.
NDDC projects are called disposable projects. They are called disposable projects because they are expected not to last. They are commissioned and they collapse. I've been to communities in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, where water tankers created by NDDC did not produce what I want. Street lights in places where there are no streets, roads that lead straight to people's doorsteps and all that. This is the character of the management of NDDC, and I agree, the agency needs to be audited.
For close observers of unfolding events at the NDDC, the Commission's failure to deliver on its mandate to address the challenges of poverty, infrastructure deficit and insecurity in the Niger Delta leaves much to be desired. The federal government's decision to get the Commission accountable and transparent is viewed, therefore, as a step in the right direction.
I really think that's a good idea. The NDDC has failed, not just failed, but failed woefully. The NDDC has, as an institution created to impact lives, has failed everybody. Has failed the country, has failed the people in the Niger Delta region. I work at the grassroots. I have gone to distant communities. I've spoken to them. They consider the NDDC a failure. In fact, in some communities, NDDC projects are called disposable projects.
I worked in NDDC for 2 months, and I tell you that I'm one of those that applauded President Buhari when I heard that they were to carry out forensic audit, because it's just a conduit. They just push money there and people just draw it out. Nothing is being done. If you compare the amount of money that has come into NDDC with what is on ground in Niger Delta, they have used less than 1%. Less than 1% of the money that are coming into that commission for the development of Niger Delta.
In the wake of the probe into the activities of the NDDC, most Niger Deltans would want the forensic audit process to be thorough and transparent. This is with a view to building public confidence in the federal government's anti-corruption campaign.
Joy Nunieh has a responsibility. One, the first thing she needs to do is to try as much as she can to entrench accountability and transparency. Because a state, an institution without transparency and accountability, which is what is visible in NDDC, is already doomed.
Critics of the NDDC are unanimous in their position that the Commission has failed the people of the Niger Delta and cannot afford to continue to operate as a cesspool of corruption. It is their considered opinion that the move to sanitize the intervention agency is a major step taken to address broken promises and betrayed hopes in the largely underdeveloped communities of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Host communities of oil mining lease OML 25 have attributed their decision to shun a recent meeting with the Rivers State government to lack of trust and confidence in its ability to improve their lots. Speaking at a press briefing in Port Harcourt, leaders of the host communities maintained that the meeting was uncalled for as the federal government had successfully resolved the OML 25 dispute.
There seems to be no love lost between the Rivers State government and host communities of OML 25, which recently shunned a meeting with the government. The host communities, rather than attend the meeting to sign a general memorandum of understanding with Shell Petroleum Development Company SPDC, chose to brief journalists at the scheduled time of the boycotted meeting. At the press briefing, the host communities said there was no basis for the meeting after the federal government few weeks back intervened in the protracted dispute on OML 25.
It is a ploy by the Rivers State government to use OML 25 to patronize their political loyalists, associates and cronies at the expense of the legitimate stakeholders. Issues of OML 25 are within the purview of the federal government as it falls under the exclusive list of the Nigerian Constitution. We see the action of the Rivers State government as meddlesome and inimical to the fragile peace already achieved by the federal government of Nigeria. It should also be noted that in spite of our cry as a people, the Rivers State governor who claimed to be concerned over our plight has never visited the area nor sent a delegation to see the level of neglect, underdevelopment and backwardness of the host communities, which produces over 45,000 barrels of crude oil and 103,000 metric cubic feet of gas per day, amounting to billions of revenue accruable to the federal account.
That the state government is calling this meeting to set up the GMOU in collaboration with some SPDC motivated personnel to jeopardize or truncate and disorganize the peace that has already come to OML 25 communities which are Belema, Ngeje, and Ofayama, respectively.
And we are not interested in the contumelious stratagems of the GMOU. Gentlemen of the press, we are here to air our views and our dismay over the ploy to take us back to the biblical Egypt. And we are stating that the federal government should live up to their bidding to ensure that the River State government and their political infinitesimal cohorts do not strangulate the community forthwith.
After getting feuding parties in the OML 25 dispute to sign a peace agreement, the federal government recently sent a high-profile delegation led by Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timmy Silva, to witness the reopening of the Belema flow station and gas plant that was shut and occupied by aggrieved host communities for over 2 years. While admitting that the federal government's intervention has sufficiently addressed their grievances, the host communities of OML 25 wondered why the River State government was prying into their affairs.
We are surprised in the midst of all this. The River State government, who are supposed to be a source of encouragement to this level of development in our community, in the Kalabari kingdom, in the Niger Delta, is now fanning the embers of violence in our community.
The OML 25 communities are happy with the resolution of their crisis. And today, the federal government is also happy that oil production has started. We do not know the reason behind the so-called meeting. We will advise the governor to rethink and stop that meeting forthwith. The governor is the governor of River State. What he needs to do is to consult the communities in River State on how to develop them, not to cause confusion between them, not to fight them, but to take their matter to the federal government where it cannot develop.
Host communities of OML 25 maintain that they will stick with the federal government's peace initiative and work towards the transformation of Kula Kingdom.
We must join hands with NNPC, NDDC, and every other government to make sure that the place is developed and there must be peaceful coexistence between us. I'm also saying that we thank Belema Oil for exchanging gun with jobs. For now, no Kula person is a militant. For now, no Kula person, no Kula son is carrying gun. That is the kudos we have given to Belema Oil.
While the River State government is yet to react to the host community's refusal to honor its invitation to the recent meeting, Governor Wike had before this time insisted that his government's involvement in the resolution of the OML 25 dispute was without ulterior motives.
We have no role. In high-powered politics, people are playing the oil industry. So why should that not be shifted to us? So we have no role. Ours is. We will always advise communities, cooperate with people who are carrying out business in their various areas. The oil communities too should be able to respect the memorandum of understanding they have with communities. That will bring peace amongst them. The problem is, I share goes in there now. Whatever they have agreed with the communities, let them implement it. And that is all. If they implement, they will do their work. But if they don't implement, there will be another crisis amongst them. And then they will call government to come in. Ours is to make sure that people carry out their business in a very conducive environment, and which the role government will play.
Until the recent resolution of the OML 25 dispute, the Belema, Ofonyama and Ngeji communities, all sharing hosting rights to the oil facility, had embarked on a non-violent protest against perceived socio-economic marginalization. They have since resolved to give the federal government the benefit of doubt in its avowed commitment to addressing their plight, and would not embrace another channel of dialogue with the River State government.
Inside the Niger Delta.
In his reaction to the face-off between host communities of OML 25 and the River State government, leader of the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, Mujahid Dokubo Asari, has called on Governor Nyesom Wike to stay away from the internal affairs of oil-producing communities in Kula Kingdom. Dokubo Asari, in an exclusive interview with Inside the Niger Delta, said it was not within Governor Wike's purview to dabble into crude oil-related issues.
He don't toy with the destiny of the people. What he cannot do, there are certain things he cannot do. And nobody is going to allow him to mess around with our people. According to the laws of the land, petroleum production is given to the government of the Nigerian state. He has no power, he has nothing. He can only come in to make suggestions and express some views on what is happening. What he's doing is to cause confusion. What he's doing is to divide and rule. It's not his business. So this one, he cannot do anything. OML 25 will produce. If stakeholders, we Kalabari people, have a way of resolving our crisis, we'll go to Kola, we'll sit down. Anybody who is interested to come and resolve. But whatever appointment, whatever meddlesomeness that Wike is bringing will fail. He has no such powers, and he cannot exert such powers in Kalabari land. It's impossible and will not allow him.
The ex-Niger Delta agitator and chief of Kalabari Kingdom called on Governor Wike to rather commit himself to the transformation of the Kalabari-speaking communities, most of which are grossly underdeveloped, despite their immense contribution to the economic survival of River State and the country at large.
I've been talking of Trans-Kalabari Road, connecting Port Harcourt to Old Bakana to Bakana, Bakana to Tombia, Tombia to Buguma, Buguma to Buguma. And from there, connecting from Degema to Krakrama, from Abonima to Krakrama. That's what we have been talking about. It's drilling how many bridges in Port Harcourt for how many billions in Port Harcourt and Obiakpor that produces nothing. His deputy governor is from my place, from Obama. Come and see the secondary school there. We have been talking, we have been crying. I have personally met him on several occasions. He said, go and bring this in QS. We have done it for many years, 4 years at last. That's his deputy governor's place.
Dokubo Asari also called on the federal government of Nigeria to consider the plight of those commuting on the fast deteriorating East-West Road, currently in dire need of attention. And just before we draw the curtain on the program, it is instructive to note that the East-West Road, which connects the entire Niger Delta to the rest of the country, is yet to receive the attention it deserves under the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The continued neglect of the East-West Road is in spite of its huge significance to the economic well-being of the Niger Delta region. Under the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan, there was an attempt to reconstruct the road from Ore in Ondo State to Cross River State. Contracts were awarded to construction firms to rehabilitate the road in phases, and that effort had brought relative succor to some commuters at strategic portions of the road. In recognition of the importance of the East-West Road to the economy of the Niger Delta and indeed the entire country, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari had in September last year promised to complete its rehabilitation project. But what we see on ground does not suggest that this all-important project is still in the priority list of the federal government. As an interim measure, we call on the federal government to direct its agencies, possibly the NDDC, to undertake repairs of seriously damaged sections of the East-West Road that have become security flashpoints in the Niger Delta. In the meantime, the federal government is expected to devise and carry out concrete plans on the completion of the seriously dilapidated East-West Road that has become a major source of nightmare for road users in the Niger Delta.
Inside the Niger Delta.
the size of our package for today. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time on this station next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until same time, same station next week, I am Mamode Akugha saying thank you so much for watching and bye for now.